What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. My name is Jeremy and this is Jeremy's Wild World. Now, as you saw from today's title, today's video is going to be me setting up a millipede breeding tub. Now, the tub I'm going to be setting them up for is the Ivory Millipede, as you probably saw from the thumbnail. Now, I'm going to be doing a really easy way of how to set up a millipede breeding tub, and of course, with this you can adjust the size, the depth, etc, depending on the species. You know, smaller species do this on a small scale. Larger species, you can do a bigger tub, but the tub I'm going to be showing you today, pretty good size for general keeping of millipedes. But yeah, so of course showing you the Ivory Millipedes today, and hopefully with this tub I'll be able to get lots of babies because I love the Ivory Millipedes, and hopefully we'll be getting more millipedes here in the future. So before we get into today's video, guys, I just want to quickly say that according to my YouTube statistics, a lot of you guys who watch my videos aren't subscribed. So if you enjoyed today's video and you want to see more, click that subscribe button as well as the notification bell down below so you guys don't miss out on future content. Now, without further ado, let's get this millipede tub set up. Alright, so to kickstart today's video, what I did ahead of time was to set up the substrate because I thought you guys didn't want to see me mixing around a bunch of substrate, but I will be explaining in detail what I'm using for these millipedes today. But essentially what you want to do if you want to have a larger tub, I'm personally using a 10-litre tub. This is what I use for breeding beetles, and I had a spare tub at the moment, so I thought, you know what, let's get some millipedes and we'll put them in here. So yes, this is a 10-litre tub. You don't have to do it with a smaller species like the ivories, but I like to do a bigger tub just because I want a large colony of these breeding and stuff like that. But yeah, so let's talk about the substrate mix, because this is probably the most important part of keeping millipedes, is having a really good quality substrate. Essentially what this is a really nice mix of different substrates. So the main substrate is topsoil, and then what I've done is I've added some flake soil, which is a fermented wood made by us, like it's a man-made fermented wood, and I mixed that in from my old beetle breedings, and I've got some leaf mulch in there and some peat moss. So I mixed that all together, and this is really important when you're keeping millipedes because that's what they will primarily feed on. If you guys don't know, millipedes will mainly eat their substrate, not the stuff that you put in there for them. So the supplementary foods like fruits and vegetables and fish flakes, yes, they will eat those and that does benefit them, but you want to make sure that you have a really good substrate, one, for that they eat, and two, that they're able to molt in properly. So yeah, so I've got about half of the tub full of the substrate, and then what you want to do next is have some leaf litter. I'm using oak today, but you can use any hardwood trees like birch, but I'm using oak because that's what I managed to grab at the Brighton show, along with these beautiful Ivory Millipedes. And yeah, so they will feed on this as well. You can mix it within the substrate, but because I've already got leaf mulch in here, there's not really any point in me doing that. So I'm just going to make sure there's a nice layer on top, and you're going to want to top this up every few days. And then after you have your leaf litter, what you want to have next is, well, you don't have to, but I like to add some moss because the millipedes will chew on this and it does retain humidity within the tub. So that's really good to have inside. So I'm using some natural forest moss, but you can use stuff like sphagnum moss, frog moss, other kinds of live moss, live or dead, doesn't really matter as long as there's some moss in there. Yeah, so I will just chuck a little bit in the corner. I'm not going to put too much. Well, I don't have too much left over, but I'm going to put a little bit of forest moss in the corner, and then if I can find it, where did I put it? There it is. Prepared, guys, prepared. I'm going to add some of this button moss that I got from Phil over at Incredible Inverts and Other Animals. My pill millipedes have been loving this, and I actually put a little clump in the tub that the millipedes have been in since the show, and they were chewing on it as well, so I'm just going to put a little bit just here for them to chew on as well. I found out they were actually eating the actual moss and the stuff growing underneath. My pill millipedes are actually enjoying the bottom more than the top, but never mind, they are really enjoying it nonetheless. And yeah, so that is pretty much what a tub for millipedes is. So again, let's go over what's inside of here. So we've got the main substrate mix, which is topsoil, peat moss, flake soil and leaf mulch. You don't have to do the exact same substrate I'm doing. You can happily keep them on topsoil mix. Of course, add some rotting wood and rotting leaves, but I like to do this just because it's what I have on hand. I breed a lot of beetles and raise a lot of larvae, so I have the leaf mulch and flake soil on hand, so it's quite handy to mix it within the substrate. Then you want to have some rotting leaf litter on top, and in this case I'm using oak leaf litter. So moss in the corner is not really necessary, but they will like to chew on it and it does retain humidity, so of course I'm putting the mix of the forest moss and the button moss in here, and that's pretty much it for a breeding tub for millipedes. You can pretty much do this on a smaller or larger scale for many of the species. Some you'll probably want to add a lot more rotting wood than you would leaf litter. For example, the fire millipedes, they like a lot of rotting wood in their substrate, but typically with detrivorous millipedes and isopods, this kind of setup is absolutely perfect for them. So enough of me rambling, let's get to showing you the millipedes and then we'll get them inside of this tub. So before I rehouse these absolutely gorgeous millipedes, I thought I'd just show you what they look like because they're really stunning and honestly a really great beginner species if you guys haven't kept millipedes before. But here they are right here. So these are the Ivory Millipedes. I'll put the scientific name in the bottom left corner, but they're absolutely stunning. I've got 4 females and 1 male, and as I was advised by Venomous Visions, I probably will get some more males at some point because the ratio should be 1 male to 2 females, but you know, can't go wrong with a few extra females if you're a guy in there, right? But you can tell these guys are absolutely stunning. And what I've noticed with these ones is that they're more of a tannish color, more than ivory, which like white, but still really beautiful. You can see a large female just wandering around there. And what's quite cool with these millipedes, you can actually sex them without having to look at the underside. I've noticed with the females, they have all the bandings on top, whereas the males have a little bit of a split. And you can see that in here over the past day that they've just been in here, they've been eating on this cushion moss. The one I put, or the button moss even, cushion or button, same thing. But they have been feeding on it. You can see this was like a little bit of a clump and they've torn it up. So it's quite good that I put it in there for them. But yeah, so these are the Ivory Millipedes, and let's just get them rehoused into their tub now. I've also found a couple extra bits that I've added into the tub now that I did forget to mention, so I'll quickly talk about that and we'll get these rehoused. So as you can see here, guys, I've added a couple extra bits as I did mention in the previous clip while showing off the millipedes, so let's just quickly talk about that before we rehouse them. So essentially what I've gone ahead and done is added these 2 pieces of cork bark right here. Now the reason for doing this is because 1, it makes the enclosure look a little bit more nicer, and 2, in case they want to be more surface active, they can hide underneath this these pieces of cork bark, but more likely than not they will be buried down within the substrate most of the time. But you know, nothing wrong with giving them a little bit more climbing space and stuff like that. And then you're probably noticing this white stuff over here is, and if you're wondering what it is, let me just give you guys a quick look if you haven't seen it before. Essentially this is the bone or the backbone of a cuttlefish. If you guys have ever seen those before, and you've probably seen these washed up on the beach, these are sold in the invert hobby for, you know, inverts with an exoskeleton that do feed on this. So your wood lice, your cockroaches and millipedes especially, they will feed on this basically as a calcium supplement, so it ensures that their exoskeleton stays hard. This is great for them. I put them in all of my enclosures, including for isopods and stuff like that. And yeah, so I've just put a couple pieces of cuttlefish in here for them to chew on. But yeah, so that's pretty much all I've added in within the enclosure. So let's just stop talking and get these millipedes rehoused. So here they are right here, as I did show you. That's the moss that they've been chewing on. But really rehousing these guys is quite simple. You literally can just pick them up and just plop them into the enclosure. And what's great about millipedes when it comes to young kids is that they're great for handling. You know, they don't bite, they just feel a little bit weird. Like they're obviously, they have loads of legs, as you can see here, and they're quite ticklish, but you know, pretty harmless. And especially with these smaller millipedes, take a look at that cute face. They're not really, you know, they can't really hurt you in any way. Some millipedes can release like a little defensive spray, which is kind of like iodine, and it can stain your hands, but then other than that, they can't really harm you all that much, really. There should be one more in here. Yes, there it is. There it is right here. Cheeky little bugger. And there you go. That's pretty much the millipedes rehoused. As you can see, they're already going straight for the substrate, and they'll bury down within the substrate now. But yeah, so let's get an up close footage of the enclosure, and then we'll end today's video. So that is the end of today's video, guys. What do you think? Really happy with how this breeding tub for the millipedes turned out, and I hope that my breeding group of ivories do breed in here. And as for in general breeding with millipedes, a tub like this for any medium to larger size, or even small size if you have a large enough colony of them, do well in this sort of setup. Obviously adjust to the specific millipede you are keeping, and there's some obviously that need more rotting white wood and stuff like that. But yeah, so fingers crossed I will be able to breed these guys, and I will be updating you guys probably on Instagram and then maybe a video in the future. And yeah, so that's all for today, guys. I really appreciate you guys checking out the video, and if you enjoyed it, I really appreciate also if you would click the subscribe button as well as the notification bell down below so you guys don't miss out on future content. I also really appreciate if you guys are following me on Instagram, Jeremy's Wild World _ as well as Jeremy's Wild World.sales. I'm really active on Instagram, posting pictures and videos of the animals and infants I keep when I don't upload on YouTube. So that's all from me today, guys. Leave a like, leave a comment, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.